What's good, everybody? It's your boy Malik Washington, back at it again with another episode of the BNB. You probably weren't expecting me to come and make another video, but that's okay. I'm always spontaneous like that. You never know when I come. I'm like a thief in the night. Who knows? Might come and steal your wife or whoever. No, I'm just kidding. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to dive right on into this episode. This episode will be known as the Orientation Agenda. I'll say that again for those in the back. The title of this video is going to be called the Orientation Agenda. And you're probably sitting up there wondering, like, the Orientation Agenda, what is that all about? Well, we have to be kind of incognito about this, and the only reason I entitled it that way is simply because of the agenda that currently stands today. As we all know, that there is particularly some kind of a not so secret agenda, a gay agenda that is out there, and I wouldn't even call it necessarily a gay agenda, but more of a homoerotic agenda that is being propagated out there in the mainstream media. In fact, it's been there for quite a while. It's been talked about for years, but some people have just kind of brushed it by because some people were like, well, that's just kind of cryptic, and that's that conspiracy theory nonsense. I mean, you could take it for how you want to perceive it, but we can clearly see what's happening right now in our world. Now, let me put out there as a disclaimer for those of you who might get sensitive and be like, oh, this is another one of those bigots that have an issue with gay people. Let me help to remove the wool from over your eyes. This is not a personal attack on those who are of the LGBTQIA community. If you just so happen to be one of them, or if you're not a part of the community, but you are yourself one of those identifiers within the community. Let me just let you know right now, this is not a personal attack on you. This would be an attack on dispositions. I don't attack people. I attack the things that they claim to believe. Because some things are just outright foolish and outlandish. Some thoughts that a lot of us as humans have can be absolutely ridiculous. And I think a lot of us know that a lot of the things that we talk about or we debate about is really not even a debate. It's really a matter of perspective and how we go about respecting people and their personal lifestyles and their personal way of being, their livelihoods, the people that are around them. We know that there are circles we dare not touch. Children, elderly, disabled, you name it. As it relates to treating them with the utmost respect, we have a tendency to try to tread on certain groups simply because they are, you could say, a liaison, an additional factor that can help to ultimately contribute to the agendas that we personally have in mind. And that is what is currently happening in today's climate, is that we have a lot of people who clearly have agendas in mind that they want to propagate to the world, that they want these particular group of people to be able to disseminate, to think about, and to be against traditional norms and traditional viewpoints about the world, right? So I entitled it as the Orientation Agenda simply because I'm not trying to get flagged. On top of that, this is YouTube, so YouTube will definitely try to crack down on people who apparently go after protected groups or talk about protective groups in a negative fashion. They may consider this to be negative. I do not. I consider this as healthy discourse, a healthy perspective, a healthy discussion on a problematic issue that we're currently having in today's climate. Without further ado, let's go ahead and dive right in. So, again, what you see in today's current climate is this issue related to the homosexual orientation becoming more prominent in today's society. There was a point in time when LGBTQ people were kind of mistreated. They were given the utmost disrespect, especially during the Stonewall era, right? Ultimately, it was about fighting to exist and fighting to be able to have equal rights, as you could say hetero couples do. Just so recently, around 2019, when Obama came into the picture, and homosexual relations became more important, simply because Obama made it actually a right for two gay people to get married. This made it possible for them, and it was another step in the right direction for the LGBTQ community as it relates to having civil rights and civil liberties like anyone else from a secular standpoint. However, although they have many rights and they are very prominent in multiple different multiple industries within the professional realm or corporate America, there are some people in the LGBTQ community who go beyond the pale, and they try to, you could say, dig their fingers or dig their nails into certain people that they shouldn't. They go across the line of demarcation. Excuse me. They go across the line of demarcation, and they try to delve into people's children. Now, what do I mean when I say this? As we have currently seen, there is a political, spiritual warfare going on right now as it relates to the propagation of information. We see that the mainstream media has a very big tendency to censor their own American people. A lot of people have become extremely sensitive to other people's dispositions on different matters of the world, even as it relates to celebrities, BLM, LGBTQ, the presidency, whatever it is you can think of. And some of you may know some people who are like this. You get to a point to where you can't even have civil discourse without there being some kind of insult, you being shunned and ostracized because you think a different way, or because you hold a different disposition about something than someone else. As right or wrong as it could be, people don't look at you the same. And it's done like that clearly by design, simply because the people that are more powerful than us want to see us divided. They want to see us fight amongst one another. They want to play God. They want to be these people that decide what you believe, that decide how you feel, that make you delve more so into your emotions rather than the facts of reality that exist before us today. A lot of us as a people have become shoulda, woulda, coulda individuals instead of people that believe in what simply is. And so what I mean by that is that we're becoming a people that just want to create all of these false realities within our minds based off wishful thinking, and not accepting the reality that exists before us and finding alternative solutions to be able to resolve our problems within that reality that is beset before us on the natural realm. The orientation agenda exists, in my humble opinion, as a way to propagate, for one, to expose the community more so to populations that are more so disagreeable with their way of life. But the second aspect is to also make more of them, since they cannot make more of them, right? What do I mean by this? So, for instance, you're seeing a lot right now of what's going on with women's sports. Women's sports is, you could say, under a terrible situation, because you're dealing with a less than 1% of a population group of populace who want to dominate different aspects of what women do. They want to embody their beauty. They want to embody their persona. They want to embody everything that it is to be a woman, despite not actually being or identifying as a woman. And this is ultimately the case when it comes to the situation with this guy who is going around calling himself Lia Thomas. Now, this dude has been in the women's sports for a little bit of time now, but apparently he became the first trans woman to win. I guess it was a medal in. You guys can write it in the comment section, but I believe he was doing some type of water sport, and he dominated it. He dominated the women that were in there, and this created a rift between, you could say, people that don't necessarily agree yet respect the trans community and people who are trans, simply because this dude, although he takes hormone blockers, he is still a male. He is still a man. And in spite of that, knowing that he is a man, they allow him to compete against women. Now, women, they can do anything like anyone else can do. I'm just going to put that out there as a disclaimer. Are they biologically the same as men? No, and they never will be. There are disparities between men and women, and that must be accepted, or at least it should be. Unfortunately, we live in a world where that is not the case, and, well, some people think that they're better than others. We don't like to realize biological limitations. Nonetheless, this is the climate that we live in today. And you got guys like this who go into these sports, they dominate the women, and it becomes unfair for the women because they cannot reach the heights that this guy already has naturally. They won't put him into a sport where he actually can be in competition with other guys, or even create his own particular sport where people who are in transition like him can actually play fairly. It's literally like putting a welterweight or a featherweight boxer in with a heavyweight boxer. It's going to be unfair because there are two completely different dynamics in weight. One is heavy, the other one is very light on his feet. Nonetheless, it could be a hell of a battle, but it is also unfair because the guy that is heavyweight, he has a much more higher chance of causing greater damage to the feather to lightweight boxer or welterweight boxer if he gets his hands on him. But these dynamics do exist, and hence is why they often try to put the closest boxers who are of closer weight to one another. They try to put them together in order to make it a fair fight. Nonetheless, I say that to say, looking at the situation with Lia Thomas, she or he should have never been put there with women to begin with. And that's just my humble disposition on it. Simply because he is not an actual woman, but two, because from a biological standpoint, he reaches the height that women cannot reach in terms of their peak in sports. So they try to promote this guy as being the first trans woman to do this, as if there aren't regular women out here actually doing this sport. What makes him so much greater than an actual ordinary real woman? There's nothing. So you put him in the Guinness Book of World Records as the first trans woman. What is that saying? What is that saying? What is that? What does that mean? He's still a man. Idealistically, he goes around proclaiming that he's a woman. He has every right to do that. It's his, you could say, even his God-given right to do that, to think how he feels. But at the end of the day, he's still a man. He's not a woman. Now, this might get me flagged for saying that, but it's the honest to God truth. And I'm not going to hold back on that. How this relates to the orientation agenda is they want us to believe that this is okay. by exposing people like him out into society and making them more inclusive in different aspects of what people do, specifically as it relates to women, that this is okay, that this is something that is natural, which it's actually artificial, but they want us to put in our minds, let him be who he wants to be amongst these women. When women clearly have an issue, some women have an issue with guys like him pretending to be someone that they're not. They will never put this guy up in the locker room with regular men. They will never do it. And hence is why he ended up leaving the sport, because there was so much controversy around him being who he was. Another issue that has also been happening in society today is this issue within education, where the transgender community as well as the LGBTQ community are trying to propagate education material related to sexual orientation, as well as you could say sexual acts, and try to expose children into thinking about who they are as either male or female, and whether if they have some kind of attraction or intimate appeal with the opposite sex, with the same sex, or with someone who has no sex, or someone who wants to be androgynous, right? A little bit of both. And one side of the coin is saying, listen, we are parents, we have children, these children were made by us, and all we want to do is for our kids to go to school so that they can have practical skills in how to socialize in society and how to empirically interact with the businesses of the world, and ultimately how to survive the reality that we live in our current climate today. In spite of all this liberal talk about, racism, white supremacy, talking about all these different social injustices in the world, I want my children to be children first. I want my children to have a childhood first. The last thing I want my children to have is someone who is to have a life where they have to sit here and contemplate about what their sexual identity is. That should not even be the focus that they have. On the other hand, some people are saying that they are not here to try to undermine what parents are doing. They simply want children to have the ability to be able to choose and to be able to decide how they wish to live their life as human beings. Because they want to live in a gender neutral, you could say gender inclusive society, where the community is more exposed. Children are able to see the world not through merely a black and white lens, and that we are all equal and we all have so many different colorful personalities. Well, let's come together as one and let's be exposed to one another. So much so, you have people creating materials like called Gay BCs by ML Webb, and quite a few other different books out there that exist that talk about the fluidity of gender identity. But here's the issue that stands with this problem. The problem is that kids are being involved. Kids are being involved. Kids are extremely young. They are still in development in terms of how they are identifying themselves as kids. Male or female indifference. They do not know whether if they are gay or straight. They do not know if they want to even pursue a relationship. They don't know anything about the struggles and the outliers of being with a woman versus being with a man. They don't know any of this. But yet, grown men and women who are of this particular faction in society, they want to take their ideals and they want to implement them onto our children. The problem with that is, lest the parents accede to allowing their children to be taught this kind of material, It is not your job to try to educate children on their sexual identities. That is a right and a privilege that should only be given to the parents. Now, as far as learning their bodies, and by that I mean learning their anatomy as human beings, male or female indifference, sex education matters in that aspect. As far as their sexual identities are concerned, that should not even be something we should be talking about, whether if they are homo or if they're hetero. It doesn't matter. The fact of the matter is that the children need to grow up first. They need to learn what it is like to be human first before they can dare learn what it is like to be a man or a woman first, or to be a man or a woman in a relationship with either party or both. They don't know these things yet. And so for us to be trying to coerce or force these people, these kids, into a position of learning about malleability, we should be trying to teach them how to deal with credit cards, financial literacy, how to manage with money, how to interact with people, how to have social or interpersonal skills. Because a lot of our kids, even now, have regrets. A lot of them are becoming suicidal. A lot of them are thinking and having conversations they should not be having at the age that they're at. They should be focused on trying to have a good family, school, life balance. But they can't get that if they have a third party trying to enter into their realm of, you could say, ignorance or innocence, and is now trying to expose them to penises and vaginas, or expose them in the middle. We're now trying to show them how to masturbate. And yes, there are schools that are showing little kids what masturbation is like, telling them about sensations and orgasms and all this other type of stuff. They want to teach. They are teaching these kids these things. You have also trans people going into the kindergarten classes, reading books and cross dresses with little kids, exposing them to different outlooks of human beings. Now, here's the thing. If the majority of the people in the school pay taxes for you to promote that madness, that's a different story. It is your money. You do what you want with your school. But if parents are coming to PTA meetings and they are telling the school board committee, we don't want this in our schools, the school board committee should be willing, in the quickness, to be able to say, you know what, we're not going to promote this kind of material. But yet in society today, this is being promoted. Now, it's absolutely insane that this is even a conversation that we should all be having as a people, because children should not have even came into this situation to begin with. But here we are. A third and final example I'd like to bring up is regarding Disney. Now, this is the most recent occurrence that has happened within this agenda. And this is actually quite sad, because this is a family network. It is actually a gender neutral network. A network that is only it's supposed to promote family-based content. Content where families will be able to look at this and they'll be able to say, our children had a childhood. They were able to go to these places. They were able to go on these adventures, know about Mickey Mouse, Minnie Mouse, Goofy, Donald, all these different characters that existed. They were able to go to these individuals, look at these characters, not based everything on sexuality, not based things on gender, but just to look at them as characters that they grew up with, they could talk about, maybe even have life lessons from. That's what Disney initially used to be about, was for your children to be able to go and enjoy themselves. Of course, there's speculations and conspiracy theories surrounding the kinds of subliminal content Disney used to put out once upon a time. But the overarching point of it all is that from the surface, Disney appeared as a family-based network. It has now completely changed due to what has transpired in Florida and Governor Ron DeSantis' bill, which the mainstream media denoted as the Don't Say Gay bill, which is far from what it actually is. It was to help give parents the parental rights to decide how they want their children to be able to live their lives without being exposed to any sexually explicit ideals or content. With that being said, a lot of people were opposing that, especially people who were in the LGBTQIA community. With that being said, Disney also decided to come and step up and be a part of the quota. They wanted to become a part of the madness, the progressive madness, and they're deciding to stand with the LGBTQIA community in regards to this bill. Now, there has been leaked audio that came out actually from a couple of executives that worked within the Disney community who are progressives, and they actually had the intention of propagating more LGBTQIA content within the Disney network. So what does that mean? The progressives that work in this place obviously are lobbying for more representation. They want more exposure. They want to be seen, and they want the world, the children, to be able to know who they are. They want to be accepted, because the current generation and society we live in has a lot of people who clearly oppose a lot of things that the LGBTQ community does already, right? And what better way to reveal or unveil who you are than by people's children? Children are the future. Children are a contingency plan in how our society will be shaped. If parents don't stand up to these kinds of ideals that exist today, our children will be put in a world that will think that there is absolutely no right or wrong in what anyone does. And there was a point in time that LGBTQ ideals were often looked down upon. And so a lot of these people who did not have a lot of power growing up, now that they have power, now that they are in positions of authority to control the narrative, they want to create an agenda to show their asses, to be able to let children know that we exist and that it is okay to be these things that we are exposing you to. Leaked audio came out from a couple of executives who actually said that there was a, not, as the black lady put it, the not so secret gay agenda. She might have been facetious when she said that, only to, tease those who are who have a different disposition about what they do. Who talked about how they were actually just trying to propagate this, and they wanted 50% or more of the characters in Disney to be either LGBTQ or people of color. So what you see, ladies and gentlemen, is that this orientation agenda is real, and it's been around for quite a while. The point to take from all of this: never give powerless people power, because if they've been abused, misused, underappreciated, they feel like damaged goods. And when you put damaged goods in power, when they haven't fully healed from a lot of their pains, they take a lot of their pain and they put it into their power. And that power becomes very dangerous and toxic, because having that kind of power gives them the ability to change society. And the one thing you should not want to do as a powerless person is become like the very people that you talk about. And a lot of the people, especially those who promote the orientation agenda, they're a lot like that. They're the very people that once got bullied, and now that they have power, they're now controlling the bullies. But that only creates more bullies, and that only creates more hatred, because you're trying to put your heaven as their heaven when it's really their hell. And as I like to say, another man's heaven is another man's hell. Ladies and gentlemen, we have to be better, and we have to do better. It is okay to be who it is that you wish to be. It is okay that you want to promote yourself. You want to be an individual. You want to be different. That's fine. It is your right to do that. I'm not going to say that what you're doing is right or wrong as it relates to your sexual identity. I don't agree with a lot of it, and I perhaps never will. But I can respect you as a human being and allow you to be the person that you wish to be in this life. From a spiritual standpoint, I could certainly say that you're wrong. But I'm not going to get into that conversation because that's not what this is about. This is about specifically the orientation agenda. And I just thought I'd put that out there as my perspective. If you have any different perspectives, please feel free to comment below under the description. I hope to hear your opinions if you have any. Ladies and gentlemen, I thank you for listening. If you got this far, it's been 30 minutes, so I'm going to let it go now. My name is Malik Washington, and I appreciate you for listening to this video. I'm perhaps going to do another video today, maybe even tomorrow, depending on how I feel or how my situation goes. With that being said, have a great day or good night wherever you reside. Until next time, peace.